The Minnesota Vikings got one of the best value free agents on the market in Andrew Van Ginkel.
Here are the top 3 impacts he's going to have on the Vikings defense this season.
Number 3.
Number 3 is the price that we got for Andrew Van Ginkel. So he signed a 2-year, $20 million deal with $14 million guaranteed, and it allowed us to spend our money elsewhere on the defense, bringing in Jonathan Grenard as well as bringing in Blake Cashman, who we'll talk about in a later video, to help out this defense and solidify some positions of need.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, 2 years, 20 million, 10 million a year for a beast. In my opinion, maybe beast is going a little bit too far, but a really, really, really good pass rusher and a fan favorite for Miami Dolphins. As soon as we signed him, I saw a bunch of tweets by Miami fans saying, "You got yourselves a dog." I've looked into it myself since then, and I absolutely believe him too. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I think is one of the best values, not just for our team, but in the entire free agency. Because if you look how he did last year based on his stats, according to PFF, Andrew Van Ginkel had an overall grade of 91.1, a run defensive grade of 76.3, a pass rush grade of 90.6, and even a coverage grade of 87.3. He also had 48 solo tackles, 14 assisted tackles, 31 stops, 8 sacks, 32 hurries, 13 hits, and 53 total pressures. And I believe he even had an interception in there. He's a do-it-all guy, a guy who has a motor, a guy that's going to do everything he can to get to the quarterback and just be a pro's pro. And that's exactly the type of player we need on this defense. And a guy that we're going to get into it later on, spoiler alert, but is going to come in and be an immediate starter for us.
Number 2.
At number 2, Brian Flores. As we know, he played under Brian Flores' defense in Miami. So he's going to be able to make that easy transition going from there and knowing exactly how to play in a Brian Flores' defense. And on top of that, the fact that Brian Flores went out, and you know Brian, with all these defensive picks, you know Brian Flores is in Quasi's ear. You know that the fact that he went out and grabbed a guy that he's already had on his defense is a really good sign. And we felt the same way with the idea of getting Christian Wilkins. It was like the same thing. And I'm sure that was a guy that Brian Flores ended up being too expensive. So you got a great value in Van Ginkel. And like I said, I mean, he's a prototypical 3-4 outside linebacker. It's not like you're trying to fit a square peg in a circle hole, or circle hole in a square peg. You know what I'm talking about, whatever it is. But it's exactly what you want. You got a guy that can come in here, can pass rush and coverage, like I mentioned before. And ultimately, it's going to be the perfect fit in the perfect scheme for that guy with the perfect coach, a guy that he's already played with. And I believe he might have been part of the draft pick that ended up selecting him in anyways. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the familiarity is huge here, right? Like you said, he's coming in and he knows the Brian Flores defense. He's played in it, and I think he's gonna fit in perfectly. And the good thing is, like with a guy like Grenard, who did come from a 4-3 defense, Van Ginkel can almost, you don't want to say be a mentor, but honestly can kind of be a mentor to Grenard. And not to say like, and mentor makes it sound like he's old, because he's not even 29 years old yet, so he's still in the prime of his career as well.
Number 1.
And at number 1, Andrew Van Ginkel has an amazing head of hair. Okay, that's not actually number 1, but it does need to be talked about here. The actual number 1 is the Vikings, for the cheap contract that we talked about earlier, value signing, got themselves a day 1 starter on their defense at a premium position. And as you said, he had 8 sacks last season, so you know he's a quality edge rusher. He's a 3-4 defense edge rusher as well, stand-up outside linebacker. It just seemed like a perfect fit, and it's exciting to me that we have a guy who has familiarity with Brian Flores, who can come in here and his impact is going to be felt right away for this team.
Dude, 100%. And we talked about this in the Green Yard video as well, is having another guy that can come in here and be a day 1 starter, like you said. Like, we didn't just, I know we lost Daniil Hunter, but we didn't replace him with just Grenard. We replaced him with him and Van Ginkel. We got 2 legit starting edge rushers, and Van Ginkel having a breakout season last year. Like I said, 90 overall PFF grade, 90 PFF rush grade, 87 in coverage. He's going to be very solid for this defense, and he's going to be a great team player. And going into the draft, now you don't like, before it was like, all right, even if you keep Danielle Hunter, you felt like you still needed to go draft a guy at least earlier as an edge rusher. But now with both these two, now you're feeling like if you do grab an edge rusher, it's probably not, you don't have to worry about that until like round 4 or later. Now you can really prioritize on things like the defensive interior, on the cornerback position, and of course, obviously, hopefully in the first round, the quarterback position.
Absolutely, absolutely. What do you guys think of the Van Ginkel signing? Let us know down in the comments. Like and subscribe. See you guys next time right here on the GG Sports Podcast.
Skol Vikes.